Board of Directors meeting, November 9th, 2022 to order. Can we get a roll call?
Chair Rydell? Vice Chair Wheeler?
Here.
Director Shibahara?
Here.
Director Johnston? Director Berman? Director Martinez? Director Walper?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Excellent. Let's go ahead and stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks everybody for coming. We have two board members via Zoom. One of them's out of state and the other one's out of county. And we have three of us in-house. So let's go ahead and adopt the agenda. Denise, was the agenda properly notified?
Yes, it was.
I'll need a motion
I make a motion, Vice Chair Wheeler, to move to approve the agenda.
A second.
We got a motion, we got a second. Do we need any discussion? I don't see anything on the Zoom. All those in favor, how do you want to do the voting today? You want to do roll call or?
Let's do a roll call for an aye or a nay.
Okay.
We'll do a roll call vote on that.
We'll start with Director Johnston. Chair Rydell. Vice Chair Wheeler.
Aye.
Director Shibahara.
Aye.
And Director Walper.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move forward with the agenda as written. Let's jump right into Board of Directors reports. Director Walper, why don't you go ahead and go first?
I have nothing.
Okay. Thank you. Director Shibahara.
You know, I just wanted to share, traveled to Klamath Falls this last weekend to attend the second round playoff for the boys soccer team. And it was pretty exciting to see how many people from our community and parents traveled. I mean, it's a long ways. Oh my gosh. It's a very long ways. And it was very exciting to see our fans in the stands and our players really represented our community well. And I have to say, even though the score was 3-6, it didn't reflect how hard and how close of a match it really was. This team we played had only allowed 3 points on them all season. And so we scored 3 in one game. So, I mean, I think a lot of pride in how well they played. And I just think also, I have to say, I think this field has made a huge difference in our competitiveness and our ability to really withstand the season and how long it stretches out and really keep our players as healthy as possible. I mean, it's a very intense sport, and also the girls did very well as well, made it to play-ins, but they also had a long trip to Ontario, which is tough, as we know, to travel that far. But anyway, I just feel really proud of our fall boys and girls soccer teams and just overall in general our community in the fields. So I just want to say thanks.
Awesome. I believe Director Johnson has no report. Director Rydell, or Chair Rydell, do you have a report today? Thank you, Chair Rydell. I'll finish out here. Pretty heavily involved with SK Youth Football. That season is finally done. We had 7 teams this year, different levels of success throughout. One team that had probably the best amount of success was the 7th grade team that was coached by none other than Superintendent Carpenter. Made it to the first round of playoffs and kind of hit a buzzsaw in Sherwood, but it's always interesting playing the big schools where they got at least another squad and a half sitting on the sidelines, and we got 4 or 5 guys sitting on the sideline, and it's across the board with all the sports. We get grouped in with the big schools, and it's fun to play them because then when we get to the high school level, hopefully we're super competitive and we're going to Klamath Falls in Ontario and Junction City and everywhere else and just whipping them. So good job, Superintendent Carpenter and all the other SKD Youth Football people. We had the opportunity to go through the classrooms. It's all running together about 3 weeks ago, I believe it was, and see everything we're doing with strategic plan put into action. And the buy-in from the kids and the teachers was pretty unbelievable. I can't go into the nuts and bolts of it because I can't remember all of the specific words and the terminology that they were using, but it was very apparent that they are all on board and the kids are all in and they're understanding their own data and the teachers are schooling them on that, and it's obviously an indicator of improvement and the continued strive for excellence within the Escada School District. So I'm anxious to see the next round of that and the next round of that and the next round of it and continue to build on it because it's pretty neat seeing it in the classrooms. And it didn't matter if we were in a 5th grade class at River Mill or Clackamas River or a language arts class in this building. It was all the same language and everybody was talking the same way and understanding what was going on. So it was an improvement. It was very apparent of the improvement. Science, I guess, is a good way to put it. So in layman's terms, because you're obviously much better versed on it, but it's pretty neat. So with that, I'll stop rambling and we will jump right into district reports. First one is communications.
Good evening. It's great to be here in November and talk about some of the exciting things that we've been working on in communications. Some projects that we have in progress right now. We got to roll out our inclement weather a little bit earlier than expected. On the positive side, we had pretty widespread everyone receiving the message about our 2-hour delay on Monday, so that's always positive to hear. And as I'll go into a little bit later, there's been a lot of work to clean up both Power School and Parent Square to ensure that we have the right communication preferences and information in place in our database to enable that to happen. So a lot goes into that behind the scenes. We've received some feedback on just making our snow routes more available, explaining a little bit more what goes into the decision-making process on that 2-hour delays, because our district is so vast that not everyone sees the weather that is leading to that decision. So we'll continue to work more on that. Another project that is in progress is our community surveys. While we completed our parent engagement survey, we did receive a little over 450 responses, which is on par with what we saw in May of last year. So we were happy to keep that consistent, but we would still like to see an increase in those numbers. So we're looking forward to engaging with the community based on their results. We'll get those results in about 2 weeks. And just having a really authentic engagement process with our community and parents on the feedback that they gave us and how we can create powerful actions to address the feedback they gave us. Additionally, a biggie right now is conference prep. Conferences are coming up soon, and as we get so much parent feedback on knowing where their child's at and how their child is learning, conferences is just a really key event. I wanted to briefly shout out Leticia, our district translator and interpreter. She has called every single one of our Spanish-speaking families to make sure they have a conference time set up and that they have an interpreter that is available to ensure that they're able to access conferences. And just been calling a lot of families to ensure that they have the resources necessary to be able to show up and support their kiddo and learn how their child's doing in school. And then lastly, we've been working on some fall activities features. Josh recently put out a feature on the soccer team, and just as we wrap up those fall sports, celebrating our fall athletics and then moving into winter and making sure that we celebrate them in the same way. And also some of our additional activities, like we are rolling into concert and play season, so giving some of those student excellence opportunities the opportunity to be spotlighted. And then some of our, let's see if I can move this without Xing out of it. Some of our completed projects that we've reached a stage where I can put them as completed, but there's always ongoing work. We launched our new website. So far, internally, we've heard a lot of positive feedback on how easy it is to edit, and we're seeing a lot more participation internally as people start editing their sites and putting updated content on there. We've also received some feedback, of course, on things we can start to improve, so that is just going to be an ongoing process, but we're excited to be building and improving on a site that is much easier to edit. Another project that we have launched is our Standards of Excellence series for this year, featuring our staff members that are doing excellent work. That was launched and has been very well received by staff, and we're looking forward to pushing that more externally. We're talking about respect in November and December, so we want to push that out to families as well and see how they can instill those values into their children as we're working to instill that in our staff as well. And as I mentioned briefly, we've done an audit of the Parent Square communication. Again, that's our mass communication platform. So that's where we send out the phone calls and the text messages. So I sat down with our communications team and we went through almost everyone's contact information to make sure they had the right cell phone number listed, the right landline listed, that they had the right language preferences, and just clean that up. And we've received a lot of feedback already on how it's making a difference for some of the people that were struggling to receive information in the correct way in the past. So we were happy to do that. And then lastly, we have launched our Inside Estacada Schools series. Again, this features our operations and our finance department, and just a little bit more of what goes on around our schools. We talked briefly about how enrollment impacts our finances, and then we also did a brief interview with some of our students on how the turf field is impacting their academic experience. So it's great to be able to launch that series, and we look forward to continuing it. Any questions?
I have a comment on the communications front. My oldest had the opportunity to participate in a read day, and I was just wondering how that was going, because we hadn't had the opportunity yet. And it was very well communicated throughout from the school, and then continual reminders, don't forget you're coming Friday, don't forget you're coming Friday. And so it's very thorough, and there's no opportunity to screw it up. So good job on that. I had another one. I'm going to cede my time. Do you guys have any questions?
When did the site roll out?
We did a soft launch on the site 2 weeks ago, and we've just been gathering a lot of input, both internally and externally, on where we can improve, because we know there's gaps that we want to address, but we're starting to fill some of those, so it is live as of 2 weeks ago.
Good job.
Thank you. Read Days also is a fun opportunity to work with all the buildings and align our practices to make sure you're getting a more consistent experience no matter what school your kid goes to.
Works well so far.
Good.
Will or Ken, you have anything? 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 Anything?
Nothing for me. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Maggie. Next up, we have Buildings and Facilities Report.
All right, let me plug this in real quick, get rolling here. Okay, good evening. For your operations report, I'd like to just start off with our capital improvement projects and give a bit of a status update on where we're at within the district. Our North Complex project, where it's just the driveway, parkway, parking area, we released an RFP in the fall or last month, and we started receiving a lot of interest from different contractors. However, we have since pulled that RFP after evaluating and realizing that this project is going to be a much larger project in terms of the cost and the full scope. And so we've pivoted to readjust and to see what we're going to be doing in terms of the scope of project. And I wanted to show the board this evening what we're proposing to release out for basically a request for bid. And as you can see here, instead of a long driveway parking area, we're proposing to just put in approximately 30 parking stalls near the JV softball field and the youth baseball field area right off Broadway. There are some complexities that we have to work through, where we are working with our engineers to make sure that this is all going to be properly maintained and done for a future proofing. But essentially, we have a long driveway leading up to about approximately 30 stalls for parking. The footprint is about 90 by 60, give or take a few feet. We do feel like this is a good first step in this progress to have a safe parking area for our community members, so they're not parking on Broadway Street. This also eliminates any congestion that we have for our buses who are coming out of the bus barn during the heavy traffic areas. So we're gearing up to release requests for procurement for bids for this project to see where this figure would come in under the scope of work.
So what does that mean for like the concessions and bathroom and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff?
that's a great question. That is still in progress, excuse me. The city is still providing, I believe, approximately 136,000. I'm looking at
I think it was
Superintendent.
160.
160,000
Yeah.
to support the construction of that project. We have building plans ready. We're working with our community members to start procuring that project and seeing when we actually can start the project. But that is still in process and wanting to move forward.
But the access to that building now,
So the access to the building is going to what we're going to be looking at is how we can create an access from this parking area to where the building location will be, which is approximately in this area right here in the corner. We also have access from the front area or near the district office down this road, if you follow along, for people to access as they drive back or walk back for games and other events. And so we do intend to be able to have some means of access, sorry, I went too far, means of access from this parking along this gravel area currently for those who park there and access concessions and access the restrooms. The other phase of this is really before we get too far, this allows us to, again, think about the future and what these field spaces will be made of, whether it's just open green space, if there's designated fields, and then allows us to pivot or adjust what the scope of master planning will be for the future.
And by installing these 30 parking stalls, that should alleviate some pressure from the community parking on the street, correct? Which I know has provided headache for the city, as well as headache for our transportation department, correct?
That is correct, yes. There's not enough parking in this area. If you look right by the baseball field or softball field here, for the amount of people who are utilizing this space. And so they are parking, our community members are forced to park down Broadway Street or further up or further back. And it just creates a bottleneck for traffic, through traffic, and then also our transportation department to pull out.
How did we arrive at 30 spots?
We just came up with a 30, it seemed to be a reasonable space, knowing that, my office is there, I look out and there's about 30 or 40 vehicles that are parked out there, that would sustain the amount of need. We are open to making that bigger if we need to. The bigger we go, the more expensive it becomes, and we're trying to be conscious of the costs, but also satisfy a need within the community and the district.
Let me ask a dumb question. On Broadway, rather than build a parking lot like that, what if we had not parallel parking, but kind of angular parking all up that area there? How many could we fit in, and would that be considerably less than what we're looking at?
I don't have the actual specs of the road, but I could probably say confidently the road is not wide enough to do angle parking. In
Well,
this
wouldn't you go into the grassy area there to the right?
Oh, I see what you're suggesting.
Carve it in, yeah.
Yeah,
So carve out the space here,
Right.
basically.
right.
That is something that we can definitely consider and look into.
Yeah, and I think the city would be receptive to that because of the width of that town, I mean, of that road. Is that Broadway?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And I know my grandson lives up there, and boy, if you have cars parked on both sides of the road, yeah, fire truck couldn't get
Right.
through or anything.
Including our buses can't
Right.
get through.
Right.
Which is a challenge. There's pros and cons to every opportunity. Price is the driver right now of this circumstance. But another con, I would say, from this conceptual design is that those 30 cars, all 30 of them, literally live in foul ball territory, which is something to be noteworthy too, from both sides.
Most definitely, yes.
But that's a park at your own risk, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And it's, yes, I'll leave it at that.
Oh, it's not going to be covered?
Not on phase one.
Not in phase one. Okay, I'll move on, and if there's more questions, happy to answer. Update on facility condition assessment. We have a kickoff meeting tomorrow with McKinstry to discuss the next steps, and essentially the next steps are site visits. They will be starting their site visits to go into every one of our buildings, including Summit or Eagle Creek building, starting next week. Myself and our facilities coordinator will be accompanying the contractors to go through all of our systems, roofing, HVAC, lighting, water, and just general age of our building to make the formal assessment and to be able to give us the information and data that we are looking for future planning. So excited to provide more updates going into the month of December and going into the future months of next calendar year. River Mill seismic rehab project. We are at 60% completed of the estimate or design phase here. As I mentioned in the past meetings, we have a surplus of $500,000. And the reason why we have that, to recap, is we have decided to do all the work on the seismic upgrades at the bottom level, or basically ground level of the building. We're not going to be touching any of the roof at this time. Because of that, we have $500,000 to spare and to put into work as long as it falls under the grant requirements. We asked for pricing on additional lighting or LED lighting in the classrooms. That came to a tune of $45,000. That also includes updating or increasing some of the shear walls in the building. With that, our target is at 1.4, and so we're still about $260,000 left that we are looking at pricing. And there's some other things that we can consider. Additional internet or low voltage drops in the classrooms. We have some structural concerns at the front area of River Mill under the soffit area that we would like to address. And then there's also just some upgrading of the lighting in the hallway. So we're getting some additional quotes, or not quotes, but pricing from our CMGC on this. They came out today, our CMGC and WRK Engineering, to look at the depth of our concrete slabs to really start nailing down of where we can put those shear walls and those Thompson anchors. Interesting enough, there's certain areas where the walls are currently at, the slabs are not deep enough or thick enough, so we're working through some of the adjustments from there. So that's where we're at right now. We plan on having 90% done in December and then 100% done in February. Then we'll be able to make our next steps moving forward and start the project hopefully early spring to get some of the work done during the spring break and May break time. I wanted to note for the board that the district is applying for another SRGP grant, a seismic rehabilitation grant for the Estacada High School. The application deadline is in December of '22, and we're going to be asking for $2.5 million. And this is going to give us enough to be able to do the work that's needed for that gym and then some to make it a safe and sustainable building during a earthquake or a large seismic event. I hope to bring good news back to you in May of '23 for that, because that's when we'll find out.
Is that the new gym or the old gym?
The old gym, the big gym, old gym. Yep.
Is it possible that that could allow for those green beams to go away?
It is possible. More than likely, like most of our roof projects or seismic projects, they do fall under, what do we do to the roof? And so we'll be considering that. The biggest thing is it's going to be detaching that space away from the main part of the high school. That's the first step. And then where do we go from there? Is it reinforcing the roof, different structural adjustments? And we would like to entertain how can we add more natural lighting in there, if that's a possibility, as long as it falls under the grant requirements, and possibly removing some of the beams, as we know that's a visual obstruction for a lot of our people. I wanted to, just a quick update on SB 1149 and Energy Trust incentives. The district, Christina Irish and I applied for SB 1149, which are energy efficiency incentives and money through ETO for our new stadium lights. We did it a little backwards, and the ETO actually accepted our request because it was after the fact. It made an exception, and SB 1149, we were able to really get ourselves awarded $62,000 and $62,674. And that includes $6,000 from ETO. So from the work that we did at the stadium, we were able to get incentives to bring back into the district fund and account to apply towards more energy efficiency projects. And so we're very excited for this win. This is a big win for us, and it lets us offset some of the costs. It is important to know that these funds or resources will be dispersed to the district in monthly installments. And sometimes it ranges from $2,000 to $5,000 over the next course of a couple year or so until the $62,000 is fulfilled. And that's how SB 1149 typically works.
Is that based off of usage, or how?
It's based off of usage, yeah.
So the more those lights are on, the more.
In general, all of our lights, the more they're on, the higher the reimbursement rate, I guess, if you will come in.
So is it like a percentage of the monthly bill?
We asked, and they didn't give us a for sure answer. They said we just submit our usage each month, and that's how they calculate it.
Usage or cost?
Usage.
Okay.
Yep. They didn't give us a direct percentage.
They did not tell you how to calculate it?
No.
Magic.
It's very magical.
So we should continue to keep the lights on until 9 or 10 o'clock.
As of right now, they have been, yes, and so we're using
And we
it.
make money. Okay.
Yes, we do make.
Only a percentage.
That's true.
So,
Okay. Last month, Director Johnson, I believe, or maybe Vice Chair Wheeler asked about the turf usage from our middle school. And so I reached out to our middle school principal and PE teachers and asked that very question. And here's the information. Since the beginning of the school year, it's been used almost every day by 2 or 3 of our PE classes. For the month of October, 10 classes a day, 40 classes a week have been using that turf field 8.3 hours a day or 33.3 hours a week. And they are continuing to use that almost every day. I mean, you walk out there, walk over to the field during the day, and you're going to see the middle school using it, which is exciting and is part of the intent of that project. It's also allowed our middle school to stay or remain cleaner because we're not tracking in mud or dirt into the buildings. And so that's actually a big win for all of our staff, but our custodian staff or maintenance staff who make the upkeep of the building. So the bottom line is that we are using that facility from the middle school's perspective almost every day. It will lighten up a little bit as we get into the winter months with the rain, but they're still intending to use it as much as they can. So a big win to be able to celebrate from that project.
Do we get charge fees, rental fees for people that use it?
We do, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I thought we had reviewed some of that stuff before, but I just hadn't remembered.
There's a facilities use agreement. We have given some gifts already, though. Malala needed to play a playoff soccer game here, and just being good neighbors, we allowed them to do so without a fee. Westland, I believe, came, and we allowed them to practice as well. But if a club, organization, tournament, wanted
Gotcha.
to utilize it.
Kind of more of like
we
a
would charge a
private,
fee.
private
Correct.
type usage versus public education type.
And there's, I guess, not strings attached, but there's some other things that go with that. If they wanted to use the scoreboard, then that's going to require additional personnel to support that because we want to make sure it's ran and protected and all that. So, yep.
Well, and then obviously, do we have to have staff there?
Like, we would want a janitor there, a
Yep.
custodian, yeah.
To make sure we
Yep.
Yep.
close up behind them, and, you know what I mean? So there is costs associated for us too, for others too.
Yep, and we make sure, when it's a private company, we apply those charges.
Gotcha.
Yep. Any questions?
I have another question. I have a lot tonight. I didn't know I had so many.
Great night.
I was curious how the new bus route, bus drop-off and pickup and all that's going around the schools. I've heard some grumblings of it being a little backed up in the mornings and such, and so I was just curious how that's going and what you guys.
And are you referring to Director Shibahara at the schools itself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they're between the middle school
Sixth
and high
Street.
school there.
Sixth Street,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
We are, we start off a little bumpy, I'll be honest. We needed to clean up some systems. When we have the proper staffing out there on Sixth Street and we have the signage out, it has gone very smoothly. When I would be out there the first beginning of the year, just for pickup itself, directing traffic, it had gone really well. Students getting off, getting to their space safely. Pickup was an average of about 5 to 6 minutes, transitioning out of school or leaving for the day. And then there's been times where we've had some hiccups on staffing and not properly getting out there. But I would say over the most part, it's been a very positive adjustment. And we work with families and individuals who are, maybe wanting to come in a certain way, and we ask them to reroute. And for the most part, our community members, our parents, our students are very pleased and accommodating to that request.
Yeah, I was just curious if I was getting backed up. I am not down there in the morning when all this is happening, so I was just curious how the flow is going and traffic flow and stuff.
It's not as bad as we thought. I mean, again, the road is fairly narrow, right? And so
Yeah.
we worried about that, but early on, we had dump trucks coming through and both buses were parked on each side. The key is getting the buses to park all the way down past the stadium,
gotcha.
and getting that so there's not that backup right at the three-way stop on Main and Sixth. Our drivers are getting really good at knowing where their place is, and again, when we have them both on each side, traffic's flowing pretty well. There are 1,400 kids going back and forth, so we're stopping and doing the crossing guard, but it has been very good.
Yeah, I could think of that. So the intersection that they come back out is through River Mill, where they come across
Yeah.
there at Granny's and
Yeah.
stuff. That one's kind of, how's that one going?
That's congested. It is congested, especially in the morning for even our River Mill families. I took a phone call from a community member just discussing some different options that we could implement to reduce the bottleneck.
Yeah.
I spoke to that person and then spoke to the administration at River Mill to see if we can make some changes to see if it would help, because it does get bottlenecked.
Well, or even with the city. I mean, that
Yeah.
whole intersection is kind of,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I wanted to see if there were some minor adjustments that we could do, and if we needed to rise to the city level and getting, our city representatives in to support and see what we can do, go from there.
cool,
Yep.
thanks. I
Yep.
just-
While we're talking about that, I had an interesting thing happen the other day. I was coming down the hill in front of the high school, and I was about the fifth car back, and I stopped at this, 5 cars back from the stop sign, and a bus pulled up coming north on Sixth, and they wanted to turn right. Nobody would stop for them. I mean, because they needed to sweep way out. So I sat back there. Guy behind me actually blew the horn at me, and I sat there for a reason, because I had a Class A license, and I know, sometimes you need to be courteous.
But you don't need a license to be courteous.
Yeah, absolutely.
It helps.
But why, did the city ask any questions before they did that, or, I mean, that poor bus driver was just sitting there, and there was a bus behind them waiting, and they couldn't make the right-hand turn because of the cars.
I can't speak to what the city has done, but yeah, it creates some challenges for us.
Do they give us, I mean, do they ask us if we can do that, or do they just do it, or, I mean, because it's caused, I mean, if I was a bus driver, I'd be a little PO'd about it.
I will say that the city is in the process of doing a major transportation initiative and seeking input from our local stakeholders, even our students at the high school and the middle school, to see what upgrades or updates they need to do within the city limits to improve transportation. I don't have specifically what the content is about in terms of the questions they're asking, but they are rolling out, I think, a survey on Tuesday to the Estacada community, including our students, our staff, to get feedback on how they can improve.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One
That's
other,
good.
one other thing on the traffic coming down Sixth, working west towards the schools. A lot of that's coming off of the Cemetery Road subdivisions, and I believe their plan is next summer to punch the road in from Hillway into Campanella Estates, which should alleviate anybody that's not dropping a kid off. They can just dive north of the school district and get out onto
Yeah.
Old Eagle Creek Highway and out River Mill, so
I do know that they're really aggressively pushing forward for that, yes.
that should help. Okay,
Director Johnson has a question.
Director Johnson.
One comment and then a question. Hopefully I'm not echoing. It's nice to know that the lights are paying back, or the investment into the field is paying back. So thanks for sharing that with us, Mike. And then have we looked at using the space that's in front of the operations building, moving the fence back to the operations building and using that as parking? And the only reason why I'm asking is being involved in baseball for a while, I know that as soon as spring hits, there's going to be 5 teams, which is 55 kids that are going to be playing on that one field. So that's going to be a really packed facility. I'm wondering if that space in front of the ops building, if the fence can be moved back, that's a possibility as well. I don't want to derail progress that's already been mailed. I'm just asking.
The question, and it is, as Superintendent Carpenter mentioned, there's possibilities out there that we need to consider, and so we're not in a position to say this is exactly what we're going to be doing. What I would say is we can definitely take that back to the district and really discuss what's going to be the best option. From what I'm hearing and just feedback and so 30 parking stalls may not be enough with the amount of students or kids that are playing. And we had issues over the fall with the amount of soccer and youth football that was there. So I would say is let me go back to our district leadership and to be able to evaluate and see what's going to be the best scope of work.
Thanks, Director Johnson. Any other questions? All right, thanks for your report, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.
Next up, we have finance. I think it's supposed to be finance and enrollment.
Good evening, Board. Thank you. Thank you.
Catch that one?
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to share with you the finances for the month of October, ending October 31st. The first, we're going to take a look at the general fund. You can see here for the month of October, we received just under $2.3 million, and our expenditures were just over $3 million. Our year-to-date is $18.2 million of revenue, and our year-to-date expenditures is just over $9.2 million. Our encumbrances for the year are just over $25.1 million. We are projecting revenue for the year of $41.6 million. We are projecting expenditures of $37.5 million. This will leave us with an ending fund balance of $4,161,167, which is approximately 12% of our ending fund balance. So a couple things that I want to share with you on here. You will see I have previous month adjustments in our beginning fund balance. This is not a hard number because our audit is not final, but we are projecting that our beginning fund balance will be $6.7 million, which just is about $1.3 million more than we budgeted. Any questions on that? Sorry about that. Our chart for our projected general fund revenue, you can see here that our state sources is 64% of our beginning fund, or I'm sorry, of our revenue. Our other sources, which is our beginning fund balance, is about 16%. And currently, our local sources are 18%. This is the month of November, so we will be receiving our property, majority of our property taxes coming in this month. So that number, that 18% might change.
Oh, I have got a question for you on that property tax.
Yeah.
I notice on the tax bill, you can either pay it up front or you can stipulate, send it out, 4 months, 5 months? Do we get a portion of that at, like in March and April? Or do we get it all up front, or what?
Great.
How do we get that?
Great question. We get it as we receive it, and if you eventually end up paying interest on it, we do also receive a portion of the interest. So we get it as we receive it, as the county is receiving it, I
There,
believe.
thank you.
Yes, sorry.
I was going to say,
County, not us. Don't pay us.
I've already paid mine.
Okay.
I meant the county, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you stuck it to me already.
As your
But I
superintendent,
still
I'll
love
just
you.
accept it.
That is one reason, if you remember back when COVID hit, that we received more property taxes than were projected, because actually a lot of people were paying their property taxes at that time because of, what was it? The kickback.
Oh,
So
Okay.
at that time, we received it a lot more. So it's as we receive it that the county receives it, that we get it.
okay. Thank you.
This is a look back at last year at this time. Big thing to look at, last year we were projecting our ending fund balance of being just about 6.9 million, our ending fund balance. This year we're projecting our ending fund balance being just almost 2 million. So the next line down there, you can see our spend down. Last year, we were projecting to spend down about approximately $388,000 at this time, and this year, we're projecting to spend down 2.5, almost 6 million. And our budget to actuals, you can see here that our budget for instructional services is 23.6 million. Our year-to-date expenditures is about 22.8 million of that, and our year-to-date expenditures plus our encumbrances are 92.9%. For support services, our budget was 12.7 million. Our year-to-date expenditures are 30.3%. Our year-to-date plus our encumbrances is 88%. And the other one is to look at that we are projecting to transfer our full amount of our transfers of 1.24 million. A look back by major object. Our total revenues for last year at this time was 18.3 million. Our total revenues for this year is 18.2 million. The major difference in that is the beginning fund balance. We are receiving more revenues in every other line. Our year-to-date expenditures for last year at this time was 8.3 million, and for this year, we're about 9.2 million. So nothing was very big or surprising when comparing this year to last year. And then our general fund expenditures as of October, this is our year-to-date by major object. Our salaries are 33% of our year-to-date expenditures, and our payroll costs is 18%. Our purchase services, which again includes our charter school payments, our utilities, that's about 39%. So 39%, yeah. And so 90% of our year-to-date expenditures are payroll cost or contracted cost or utilities. Any questions on the general fund before I move to capital projects?
Who does our payroll?
We do.
Oh, so we don't contract it out?
No, we in-house it. Mhm. We have an amazing, Kirsten Johnston works with HR and processing that. Mhm.
Thank you.
So for capital projects, we did receive some construction excise tax in the month of October. So our total resources was $25,433. Our expenditures were $101,114. Our year-to-date revenue is $2.09 million, and our year-to-date expenditures is $1.5 million. You can see there is the projected beginning fund balance in there of $1,891,233. Again, that is not a hard number because our audit isn't complete, but that is what we're projecting at this time, which is about $391,000 over what we budgeted. So our fiscal year projection for revenue is 2.8 million, and our expenditures is 1.9 million. So at this time, we're projecting an ending fund balance of $871,033.
Christine, on that construction excise tax, do we see that monthly or quarterly, or how does it?
Quarterly.
Quarterly.
We get a payment from the city and a payment from the county quarterly.
Have you seen that slow down in the last quarter?
Yeah, a little bit. I could do a comparison if you want.
It's okay, I was just wondering, I think overall, everything's kind of slowing down a little bit. Just wanted to see how that was affecting us.
I'd be happy to do a comparison last couple of years. Okay. And the next thing I want to talk to you about, we brought to you last month, I brought to you our ESSER expenditures that we did for last year, and I let you know that we had an excess that we were going to talk about and reallocate, and we have a new plan that we are bringing to the board, and we also have submitted it to ODE for approval. So you can see here, this is ODE's template, so I'm going to try to share it with you the best I can. The first parts of the plan, I'm looking down in the very bottom of the grid where it starts with contracted services for CNNs. So all the way down to adult transition programs, which is the bottom third, the third from the bottom, that is continuing plan. Nothing on that. Those are all been there from previous. We did decide to reallocate some of those plans, such as we are no longer needing personal protection equipment, so we reallocated that, and we are no longer needing hotspots and internet related to COVID. So we reallocated that. And we also reallocated the community liaison dollars. And with that, we are proposing an adult transition program, building space. We're projecting that to be about $250,000. And indoor air quality, split unit air conditionings, and more information will be coming about that later, but that's about $208,000. And then some read day costs. There are some read day costs that we are accruing that are not covered, such as our meals that we're providing for our families. And we have asked that that be covered in here for the next 2 years, and totaling $60,000 each year.
Where did we come up with the $208,299 for indoor air quality, the mini splits?
That's a great question. So we are projecting
I'll talk about it in my superintendent report.
Oh, okay.
There we go. So this plan is up on our new website under departments. If you look on the business page and then grants, so this is shared with our community, and it has been submitted to ODE. Any questions on it?
So when you say submitted to ODE, so we're waiting for approval back?
On the capital expenditures, such as the adult transition program and the indoor air quality, we do need their approval on those items. Making sure that we are properly using the ESSER funds. I have been in contact with them. They have a committee that approves them, but at this time, they're not anticipating any problems.
And we need to get their approval on anything over $50,000?
Anything that's a capital expenditure, so if it's an upgrade to our buildings or things like that, we do need
Even
a,
if it's 10,000 or?
Yeah,
okay.
because it's that
Yeah.
grant money.
Okay, even if it's 10,000 or?
Yeah,
okay.
because it's that
Yeah.
grant money.
Okay,
if it's an improvement to our buildings, then yes, it is federal funding and we have to get their approval on it. Okay, next is enrollment. We did have a slight, very slight decline for the month of October. CRE is at 453 students, which is 4 higher than last month and 48 higher than last year at this time. River Mill is at 489 students, which is down 5 from last month, but still up 73 from last year at this time. The middle school is at 429, which is down 2 from last month, but up 29 from last year at this time. And the high school is at 533, which is down 9 from last month, but still up 27. So the Estacada School District, we're down 12, but still up 177 from last year. And then Summit Learning, they are at 1,197, so they're up 11 from last month at this time, but down 82 from last year at this time. So a net change for our school district as a whole is -1. So our chart here comparing to last year, you could see here the slight declining, but you can also see that is kind of a historical. There's only a couple times that we've gone up at this period in time, so a slight decline was anticipated. And that's all I have for you.
so if we lose 11, Summit gains 12, or vice versa, how do we know if any of those that left here went to Summit or vice versa? Do we track that at all? Or?
Yeah, we
Okay.
do, and I can tell you that several of the students who left did go to Summit, primarily 4 or 5, I believe, at the high school level. We also know of a family who's moving to Alabama and a few other things for various reasons. But parents are not required by law to tell us why they're choosing to leave or go this way or that way. But typically, when they go from our school to Summit, Summit typically lets us know as well.
Any other questions? Director Johnson or Chair Idell, you got any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair
Oh,
Riddell.
one more time.
How about now?
Go ahead, Ken.
It wasn't that important. I'll ask you later.
He's still there.
All right, thanks. All right, next up, we have the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you, Board of Directors, and thank you for being here tonight so we can continue to move forward. Next board meeting, we will roll out the district scores of our surveys, both service, parent satisfaction, employee engagement, and student engagement. So I look forward to our district team sharing out our improvements in different ways. I also want to remind the board that on November 30th, I think I'm reminding, maybe I'm saying, on November 30th, very excited and honored that the Molalla School District and the Colton School District are coming to visit to see the continuous improvement work that we're doing in our classrooms. So very proud to be able to show and tell that work, and also excited that we could have some potential partners in this work located in our region as well. So that's a good thing. And then on December 14th, the Estacada Chamber of Commerce will also be taking the same tour that you all took, and looking forward to welcoming our business owners. Obviously, what people see on occasion on national news, they correlate that as truth of what's going on in the Estacada School District. So I'm very excited to open our doors and let our business owners see what Estacada School is like, different from what they may or may not see on the news. So looking forward to that as well. The thing I want to talk about this evening, and so I'm going to kind of move the typical superintendent report more towards those HVAC units. And so again, as our board of directors ponders, their vote tonight towards allocating these funds towards mini splits, again, that's coming from the ESSER fund, and so those are federal dollars. So this decision this evening does not impact our general fund and/or our budget. It's an opportunity for us to make our classrooms healthier and safer with good air exchange in 1960s buildings. This will help us, again, as we come out of COVID, but yet COVID and other illnesses still exist. This should help us in terms of air filtration and air movement. However, it also, on the same time, will also address a very common theme coming from the voices of our employees, the voices of our kids, and the voices of our community, and that's trying to chip away at making our classrooms more climate controlled. Without the passage of a bond from our taxpayers, there is no way that our school district will be able to bite this whole project off. It's just not affordable. And so we're very pleased from school district leadership standpoint to be able to reallocate this one-time federal gift from Washington, D.C. in an effort to make some of those upgrades that we could not do on a regular basis. And so I do want to applaud the board because this is where these ideas, I believe, are coming from to support the voice of our employees, kids, and community. And so I think the work that we're doing here to allocate these funds from the board level all the way down to the classroom is a really big win for us. And we're looking forward to that. So what 202,000, what is that, 200 and something thousand, I can't quite read it, but $208,000 is going to pay for is ultimately 22 mini splits out of the ESSER funds. And then what we're trying to do is prioritize what are the statistically hottest rooms for us in the late fall and early spring. And so if you can see here the blue classrooms, let's start with the bottom right picture. The bottom right picture is Clackamas River Elementary School, and so those front two pods are statistically our hottest classrooms. And so the approval of this vote would ultimately put in mini splits in those hottest two pods. At the middle school, the upstairs of the 1920s middle school that was remodeled in 2001 or 2 is our hottest area at the middle school. And so your approval tonight will allow the school district to begin putting mini splits into each classroom in the entire upstairs of the middle school, the hottest area in that room. And then at Estacada High School, which is the left picture, you'll see that the blue classrooms are the front of the high school 3 classrooms, as well as the classrooms that do not contain any windows. are our hottest classrooms at the high school. And so this approval would allow the school district to start prioritizing the number one statistically most hottest areas inside our school district. The oranges, or the greens, would be priority 2 if and when new revenues come our way. And then the oranges, which is primarily the cafeterias, gymnasiums, and other big spaces, would be the third priority inside of that. And so you can kind of take a look in that process. Thank you. So to see it from a different graphical display, you can see that Clackamas River, with this approval, would be 12 classrooms. Estacada Middle School would be 11 classrooms. EHS would be 10 classrooms. Now, I told you that $208,000 of that is coming from ESSER funding. In conversations with each individual board member, which I'm very appreciative of that conversation, and each of your individual support towards this, is to apply those SB 1149 funds that we're getting for energy efficiency money towards additional air conditioning units, ultimately allowing that total price, which you have the opportunity to vote on today, of $266,464, none of which comes out of the general fund, all of which either comes out of the federal grant, ESSER grant, and/or our energy efficiency money, which, again, these are energy efficient machines that we're putting into each and every single classroom. It is important to note that there are some unknown costs that we'll have to explore, and that is what these split unit systems will do to our electrical capacities. And so we may need to utilize some funds to upgrade maybe some breaker boxes or panels or other words that electricians say that need to happen. But nonetheless, some cool stats. If we vote to approve this today, there are 90 classrooms inside the Estacada School District, and so far we have already completed the River Mill Annex classrooms. Those were the hottest in the entire district during the summer months, and so we were pleased to pilot these mini split systems in those classrooms. They have been very, very productive, and our teachers greatly appreciate them. So utilizing this will allow us 33 more classrooms. We broke that down at $8,000 per classroom. The unit's about $6,000, and we gave ourselves a $2,000 cushion for any unknown electrical, constructural, you know what I mean, buffer on either side of that. And so that's how we got to the funds that we got to in terms of that approval. And so if we're able to fulfill this, that'll give us 37 rooms that are climate controlled, making 41% of all classrooms in our school district with a climate controlled opportunity, which is great work over the course of the last couple of years, and something we can, again, be very proud of as we leave a lasting legacy while being mindful of taxpayer funds, and allowing a future potential bond conversation to focus on other important structural needs, such as capacity. And so with that, I don't know if there's anything other than that one right there. I'm going to leave that as the superintendent's report this month, and I'm happy to answer any of the board's questions.
How many different bids did we get on this, and who ultimately got it?
I can speak to that. We actually have not released any procurement or RFP. This would require an RFP if approved by the board of directors, and then we would come back to the board with our selection based off the selection committee and the evaluation process.
So how did we come up with the $208,000?
That's a very good question. We did some external research with local contractors. The one contractor that did the work at the annex, at River Mill Annex, we spoke with him and another contractor on a potential, what would this look like in cost-wise, especially if we purchased 33 units, how would we get a little bit less, more of a discount, if you will, and that's how we came to that number.
How many suppliers are going to bid on it?
It really depends. It's up to the supplier. We procure, we send it out externally on our website, through the newspaper, and other platforms for companies to provide a bid. We do also send out to other contractors that we work with to say we have this RFP if they're welcome to, but it's ultimately up to the contractor to apply, submit a bid.
Once these are installed, do we qualify for ETO rebates?
ETO, I'm not certain on ETO, but definitely SB 1149, because this is going to be an energy efficiency project. So the good news about that is that we're just cycling through more projects that will give us a return in the long run. So this project, even though we're paying out of ESSER and SB 1149, we will get incentive money back.
Just to follow up on that, the annex building at River Mill, I'm sure we have historical records. Is that on a separate electrical meter, do we know?
Yes, electrical meter, it's on its own power, yes. It's on its own power distribution, yes.
It'd be interesting to see how it's affected the last 3 months or 2 months that it's been in there.
Absolutely.
Versus, and 2 months wouldn't really give you a good picture, but.
Going into the winter months, sorry to cut you off, I think we'll get a better idea to see where those savings are at. We certainly can get that for us, for the board.
So help me with the process. I'm trying to
Yeah,
put it through my
absolutely.
head. What if the bid comes in at 300,000? That's the least expensive one. What do we do then?
Well, in our RFP, in our contracts, we do reserve the right to either do the full scope based on refunding or not, and so we have the ability to scale back. So if we say we want 33 units installed, and hypothetically a contractor says, okay, it's 300 grand. Well, we don't have that budget, so we're going to need to, if we want to select that contractor, because of the variety of selection criteria that we go through, then we say, okay, we need to scale back. We can only do 10 or 15. And so we have to reevaluate our priority based off the data and really look at which of the hottest or warmest rooms that we need to have climate control in.
So when we go out for that quote originally, do we say not to exceed on that RFQ that we send out, or?
We typically don't put what our budget is. That's not typical practice.
Okay.
Yep.
We would like them to come under.
Oh, definitely. Well, if you say maximum 208,000.
They're gonna go
You know,
208, yeah.
you know the guys are gonna come in at 190, 180, 75.
And much like other RFPs that the district have released and completed, we have a selection committee with stakeholders within the district leadership to evaluate, potentially interview if there's multiple contractors that we want to vet, to interview and really get. We ask for 3 references, local references within the area, so we can vet that process as well. So it's a lengthy process, so it's not going to be next month we'll have this done. It'll probably be more in the winter months that we'll be starting this project, if approved.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Thank you, Superintendent Carpenter. If there's no other questions, let's go ahead and move on to reports and presentations. And we have none other than Scott Sullivan. Come on down with the student investment account, or SIA as I like to call it, with my friends.
Well, I want to thank you and your friends and the rest of our community of business leaders and consumers, because with the tax dollars that they provide the state of Oregon, we were able to get approximately about $1.5 million a year for the last 3 years to help support our students in learning in schools. There's a big process, and we're going to be starting that again this year. This year in March, they will be asking us to turn in another 4-year proposal in grant. But before we do that, I wanted to share what we've done in the last 3 years. And every year we do an overall report, an annual report. This will be on our website sometime tomorrow or the day after. And I'm not going to go through the 8 pages that you guys already have in your board packets and also in front of you. So I'm really going to hit some of the high points because I've been very involved and highly invested in this since it started, and it's near and dear to my heart. And the first things that they wanted to know was what kind of changes that we have made in our behaviors and actions and policies. And we focused on our key strategic areas that our committee, our steering committee, and our community came up with. Those areas are increasing engaging opportunities for our students, increasing adult support in the classroom, increasing equity, diversity, and inclusion, and also improving social emotional health and wellness for our students. Those 4 strategic areas were all addressed in our last 3 years, and especially last year as we're coming out of COVID. We saw a lot of great things happening using the dollars from the SIA account. Most importantly, it provided us to bring in people into our schools to work with kids in both classroom and also in the social emotional area. I could sit here and go through, we hired a counselor at the elementary school, we hired a social worker for the elementary schools, we have increased our CTE programs for our middle school kids, which have never had a CTE program. That is career technical education, and we are now bringing welding and manufacturing to a group of 7th and 8th graders and 6th graders, which is awesome, and they're loving it. Got some great pictures. We're also getting more involved with our community. When we started the continuous improvement and improvement science journey, one of the main pieces of that was outreach to community, family, staffs, and students. And SIA has given us a chance to do that, continue to do that, and build on top of that, and focus on some of our more underrepresented groups that don't always reply, or their voice isn't always heard in generic surveys. And I have been lucky enough to meet with, in the last 3 years, every year, and I'll be starting after Thanksgiving, special focus groups of our students. I meet with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade homeless. I meet with high school homeless students separately. I meet with our migrant students, our English language learners, our students served by special services. We also have some foster students I gather and I talk to, and I ask them questions about what are we doing as a system, what barriers are we producing for you or putting up for you, and how can we improve your experience? And from all of those, we bring that data to the table, to a larger group as we make our decisions about what to do with the dollars that SIA brings us. So this report really goes over and talks about that. It also asks us what are our biggest barriers and challenges from SIA, and that is simply for us has been, and I think for most districts, finding qualified, highly qualified individuals to take job opportunities that we've created. We originally wanted it to have 18 paraeducators working in our classrooms with this dollars. We were only able to find approximately 13 highly qualified, and that would come to our district and travel and do the work. So our biggest barrier has been finding the people, and since we can't always find the people to do some of these jobs, we're having to shift our priorities and how we spend those dollars. Ongoing engagement is another big question they ask about in this, the third question. And again, I'm very proud of our school district in the last several years and all the work we've done in reaching out to the community. And now what we're trying to do is also bring back some of those underrepresented voices into this discussion as well. We're meeting with families of different groups all the time, and we're going to continue to do that, collect those voices, and share them with the entire community. And the last big question they asked about was what stands out? And I think the biggest thing that I believe stands out is our work with those small groups of students, hearing from the students. One of the reasons we have manufacturing at the middle school is our kids told us they want it. Our middle school students, I can specifically remember some students in foster care saying, I want to learn something. Their mind wasn't on college and dreams. Their mind was on today and making a living and taking care of themselves and a family. And so based on those inputs, we were able to bring that to us. So that was the biggest impact to me, is the voice of our students in all the special groups that we've been talking with. There's a lot more in this report, but I'll let you look at it. If you have any questions, please reach out to Dr. Carpenter and I'm sure he'll have the answers, or will know where to get those answers. And if you have any questions right now, I'd be happy to take them.
So is this a 3-year funding cycle for this?
3-year funding cycle. We do a 3-year, they're actually asking for a 4-year plan now. They're also asking us to integrate 5 other initiatives at the state level into one plan. And so we're going to be doing that work heavily in the next 4 to 5 months.
We are hoping to, I think it's just noteworthy, in conjunction to our strategic plan work this spring, to build that 4-year plan alongside that, so it matches our new mission, vision, values.
Nice. Or updated, maybe not.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Hopefully we're on the right track.
Okay. Any other questions on the SIA? Director Walper, you feel pretty well versed on it?
Picking it up.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, moving right along here. No other reports or presentations. Do we have any discussion? All right, let's jump into the hearings of citizens for action items only.
None.
Done. Do I need to read the?
Nope.
I'm getting a yes and I'm getting a no.
You don't need to read the public action stuff. You will need to read under.
Consent agenda?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. All right, next one is item I, action items. The consent agenda includes a package of 1 or more items to be voted on as a unit. However, if any board member is not in favor of 1 or more agenda items and prefers to take separate action, a request to the chair or vice chair anytime prior to the vote will remove that item for a separate vote.
Vice Chair Wheeler, I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
We have that motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on this? One thing of note, this is a first reading on all of these policy updates. I'll encourage all the fellow board members to spend some time at night reading through these policies. A lot of them we've seen and are little tweaks and grammatical changes and updated language. Joe and Director Berman and Director Martinez are our resident policy experts this time around, so feel free to reach out to them when they're back in district. Any other discussion? Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
Director Walper,
Aye.
Director Shibahara,
Aye.
Vice Chair Wheeler,
Aye.
Director Johnston,
Aye.
Rydell,
Aye.
motion carries.
Okay, next item. To approve Resolution 2223-2 as presented.
Vice Chair Wheeler, I move to approve Resolution 2223-2 as presented.
Second.
We got a motion and we have a second.
Yeah. I think we should have a discussion because I think it's not very clear on
Yeah.
what this resolution is in the proposal, in the,
Yes, just to be clear, this is a resolution authorizing the budget increase in the general fund to a higher beginning fund balance and to add the trust and agency funds for revenue the district has received. Christina, would you like to speak to this?
Yes. As I shared with, during our general fund reports, our beginning fund balance did come in higher. And with that, we are asking to increase in instructional services and support service. And this will be used to help offset the higher COLA rates. We did not budget. We budgeted the 3%, and our COLA rates came in at 6%. And so we are asking to allocate some of that additional sources there. And the reason why this is a supplemental budget is the trust and agency. This is a brand-new fund that we did not ask for, but we found out that we are the treasurer. Ginny Durand at the high school is the treasurer for the Tri-Valley League. So we did receive that revenue. Malala is handing over the responsibilities for that. And so working with our auditors, the best way for us to handle that money is in the trust and agency fund, because that means it's not directly our funds. We are just managing the funds. So we are asking the board to approve that. It is a supplemental budget because it's an ad, and that will give us appropriations to spend, and Jenny will be able to pay the bills for the Tri-Valley League.
Is that something that we will see monthly, or is that something that's just
It-
under our umbrella, but we don't really have to?
Yes, it's under our umbrella, but it's not us to manage. With this way, I'll be doing bank rec, it'll be within our bank recs. It'll be audited, but it will not be, it's not our funds.
Is it under the same scrutiny and, like the two signers and all of that?
It's the same, the money is being deposited into our general fund checking account, and then the checks will be made out through that. So it's the same as all of our other funds, and it'll be managed as audit, but it is not our funds. Trust and agency is kind of special when it's not ours. Like if we were to have our own, like say, for example, a business, that's where we would house that. It's a special operating, it's not an operating budget, it's just in and out within that.
Any other questions on this? Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
Director Walper,
Yes.
Director Shibahara,
Aye.
Vice Chair Wheeler,
Aye.
Director Johnston,
Aye.
Chair Rydell.
Aye.
Okay, thanks for the explanation on that, Director Irish. To authorize, this is item K, to authorize the Escalade School District to spend $266,464 towards the installation of air conditioning units in designated classrooms as presented before by Superintendent Carpenter.
Vice Chair Wheeler, I move to authorize the Estacada School District to spend $266,464 towards the installation of air conditioning units in designated classrooms.
Second.
We got a motion, we have a second. Do we need to discuss?
I'm excited about this opportunity. I mean, I think that doing that test this year was great, and I'm glad that that went so well, and happy to be making some dents in making our buildings more comfortable for our students and staff. So I hope the bids come in where we can put in like 50 instead of 33.
Any other discussion?
Does Chair,
Will or
yeah, I'm like, who are they? Director?
Director?
Johnston and Chair.
Rydell?
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Well, his audio, he texted me earlier, so we'll just go ahead and go to the roll call vote.
Okay, Director Walper,
Aye.
Director Shibahara,
Aye.
Vice Chair Wheeler,
Aye.
Director Johnston,
Aye.
Chair Rydell.
Aye.
Carries.
Okay, moving right along. To authorize the Escalade School District to pay Dick Hanna Chevrolet dealership $56,437.20 for the purchase of 2 vehicles.
Vice Chair Wheeler, I move to authorize the Estacada School District to pay Dick Hanna Chevrolet dealership $56,437.20 for the purchase of 2 vehicles.
We have a motion?
Oh, yeah, I second.
We have a second, look at that. Okay.
We need some discussion. And I
Let's
think
go ahead
it's,
and have a discussion.
I think it should come from Ryan because he explained it very well to me. And I think our community needs to know why we're doing this.
Absolutely. To get started, first and foremost, it's always our responsibility to make sure that we're always upgrading and updating our transportation fleet so that it's safe and drivable for our kids, number one. Number two, the district currently possesses 3 cars in its pool currently, 2 white Weston Buicks from 2002, and 1 purple something from 1992 is our 3 cars in the pool, and they are running and operational. As we think about and contemplate how we can be better fiscal stewards of our resources, we are experiencing more and more students who are coming to our schools from outside of the Estacada School District for various legal reasons. Like, for example, students who are experiencing homelessness that started the school year in our school, but now potentially live somewhere in Portland, or in this case, Westland, Wilsonville School District. We are obligated by law and under Title 10, I believe, to transport these kids to the school they originated. The kid is not punished for the family being homeless, and so we're obligated to send transportation, in this case, to Westland Wilsonville to pick up the student. We also have students who have been taken from homes that are in foster care that we're also required to bring to our schools. We have currently a student in Sandy, as well as a student in Gresham, I believe, that we're taking these 3 cars to. But we also have a student that we're required by law to transport from Malala and another community, I think Oregon City. And so because we are short in car fleet, we have to utilize our Class A drivers, who we pay at a premium rate, as well as at times we have to utilize one of our yellow buses to go pick up one of these children at these out-of-district locations. And so it's our intent not only to continue to keep our fleet upgraded, but also to utilize a cost-effective driver in a cost-effective vehicle to go and just pick up these 1 students throughout Clackamas County and Multnomah County, for that matter, to support that. I think this is something that's not going away. It's going to get greater and greater as our enrollment continues to grow. And so this is going to be something that supports us for the future as we become more flexible and agile and keep our bus drivers in yellow buses instead of taking them where they're going now.
Are there additional costs that are incurred to get these up to standards? And my mind goes to like video cameras in there, particularly if it's
Yes.
1 driver and 1 student.
Correct, yes, and those will be things that we'll be incorporating. We currently do not have them in our 3 older vehicles, but part of our plan is to upgrade through this purchase also all of our cars to be equipped with cameras to protect the kid and the employee.
And is it a one-on-one? I mean, like, or can they pick up multiple students?
They can pick up multiple students, yep. Just it's often uncommon that we have 2 or 3 kids in Gresham, but we have in the past to just consolidate, done a little looper, yeah.
And what kind of vehicles are these? Just to make sure
yeah,
they're
no,
not Cadillacs?
Yeah,
or-
that's a great question, and I appreciate that. And the truth of the matter is that the Dick Hanna vehicle is a, wait for it here, a Chevy Equinox, and it is the base model. So we're getting each car for roughly $28,000, totaling $56,000. So I wouldn't be surprised if these have hand crank windows out there. And I appreciate that question. And I think another question along the lines of that is Director Mike Ware, our Executive Director of Operations, went to 3 different car dealerships, and Weston's came in at $73,000 for 2 cars. Wilsonville Chevrolet came in at $75,000 for the same 2 cars, and Dick Hanna was the best deal at $56,000. And so we truly are paying the lowest that we can for these vehicles.
And where did the funds come from?
So they came from, although I could be saying, I've been saying this a lot, and it might be completely wrong, but I'm under the impression that we have leftover funds from the buses that we were purchasing last year to the tune of around $70,000 left over. And so we're asking the board to utilize those leftover funds to buy 2 cars.
Do these qualify for the 70% reimbursement or rebate or whatever the correct terminology is?
Yes, sir, they do. So over the course of 10 years, we'll get 70% back from our purchase, the depreciation.
Lot less fuel mileage than it
Correct.
would be for a bus. So
Yes,
It makes sense.
yes. Yep. And it's several dollars an hour less for us to send people with a Type 10 certification, different than for us to send a true school bus driver.
Okay. Any other questions? Doesn't look like it, so let's go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Director Walper,
Aye.
Director Shibahara,
Aye.
Vice Chair Wheeler,
Aye.
Director Johnston,
Aye.
Chair Rydell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Last one is hearing of citizens for non-action items,
None?
and we have none. We're going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 8:30 on the dot.
No way.